All right, everybody, welcome back to the Forever Forward podcast. We're webcasting, going live today. And so one of my dearest friends is our guest today, Dr. Ara Suppiah. Introduced to him about 4 or 5 years ago. We got to spend some really cool time at the Ryder Cup and got to know each other. And throughout the years has grown to be one of my closest confidants, mentors, go-to guys. An amazing story. Born in a small village in Malaysia, to now being one of the world's most sought-after functional sports medicine docs. He's also the chief medical analyst on NBC Sports Golf Channel. And it's his story is amazing. We'll dive into it quite a bit. But one of my favorite quotes, that Dr. R always says is that listen, you've got to live a life, by design. You can't be living life by default. And it's really interesting is that speaks volumes to what we're talking about in the Forever Forward podcast. And his story is truly, just keep moving forward in spite of some of the circumstances or in spite of some of the, dips or valleys in life. What he's done with a career is absolutely unbelievable. And once again, Dr. Ara Suppiah, you friend, bring you on. Man, it is so good to see you, and it's so good to see your smile. And
Likewise, bro.
I appreciate you coming on, man.
Oh man, listen. First of all, feelings mutual. You are a brother from another mother, and it's only been 4 years, huh? I thought it was longer than that. It's actually
Man,
2016 Ryder Cup.
yeah, it's
But I,
2016.
yeah,
Yeah, isn't that nuts? It's only been 4 years. Feels like we've known each other
no,
our entire life.
basically. Yeah, I know. And you know
Man,
what? The
y-
fact that I have a quote is shocking to me.
hey,
I know I have a quote.
you have an official quote. Yeah. Well, one of my favorite, an add-on to that specific quote is, be a free-range person, and we're going to dive
Yeah,
into what that actually means here in a little bit. But listen, you and I have had amazing discussions. We've gone all over the map from getting super technical into the medical and the fitness side, but we've also had just amazing life discussions. And
mm,
you're one of those people that, like I said, is when you walk away from just spending time with you feel like you've gotten some wind in your sails, and let alone you have a dashing smile, but also just your spirit. And I think that speaks
thank you.
volumes.
That means a lot coming from you.
Well, I think it speaks volumes to, kind of, your entire upbringing, your entire path to where you're at now. So, tell me a little bit about, golly, you were born in a small village in Malaysia. What was it called? Klang? Is that right? Am I saying?
Clang, yeah. Yeah, good, dude. You said it correctly. Yeah,
Nice,
clang.
nice.
Yeah,
Gosh, let's start from there. I mean, how do you start from there to coming to the States and quite honestly being one of the world's most sought after functional sports medicine doctors? Let's just kind of dive into a little bit of the history of Dr. Ara.
yeah. Listen. I mean, I am probably the most blessed person you're going to meet. Like, I've had so many people in my life just come out of the woodworks and just help me out.
Hmm.
Just kind of. I do believe this. I am so guided, and so I take. The more I've lived, the more I've learned that just go with the flow, go with the path, because you know if you're guided and you believe you're guided, then let the guide take you.
Yeah.
It's always end up in the right place at the right time. It may not be the result you want, but you'll end up in the right place eventually. And so my story begins in Klang. My mom is a teacher. She's still alive. She's 72. Uh, one of the absolute loves of my life, and one of the most profoundly impactful people in my life is my mom.
Yeah.
My dad was a mathematics teacher, who I adored, but he got killed in a car crash when I was 5 years old.
Mm.
And so I lost my dad early, and my mom, you know, played the role of mom, dad, teacher, everything,
Yeah.
mentor, everything, and she was, I remember vividly watching her, how she managed to, my sister wasn't even born. She was pregnant, my sister. So she had three kids, single mom, and in the Indian culture there in Malaysia, that you don't remarry, kind of the family supports you, and you just do this, and so
Yeah.
I was always good in sports. I played badminton, soccer, all sorts of stuff, and then ended up playing tennis and was actually really really good in tennis. Played junior tennis in Malaysia, won a bunch of tournaments, and but my mom was always, because of where we were financially, she was like, you got to study, you got to make sure you study, you got to. So like she would lock my rackets up, and the only way I would get my rackets back is if, like, during exam time, I studied and got my grades. Otherwise, no rackets, So
Yeah.
it was that way until I was 17, and I'd done. The Malaysian schooling system is very different to the one in the UK, to the US.
Hmm.
So you go to effectively you go to high school, and then when you're done, you do something called advanced levels,
Hmm.
which allows you to get into university in the UK, and that's like
Yeah.
I did that when I was 17 and 18, and by the time I was 18, I'd done that, and I had a spot to study medicine in Liverpool University,
Hmm.
okay, which was great, except that there was no way on earth we could afford that. Like,
Right.
just no way. It was just so expensive,
Yeah.
even converting, like, Malaysian ringgit to the pound at that time was like one ringgit was £5. And my mom
Yeah.
made, as a teacher, 30,000 ringgit, which
Mm.
was like not even enough to pay, a term of
Yeah.
university.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so, but like I said, I was really good in tennis, and somebody in my club offered to sponsor, for me to turn pro and go try playing
Hmm.
professional tennis. And it was such a big dream for me because I would have been the first Malaysian to do that. And this guy was like a member in the club, and he was very generous. And so I was kind of, I was 2 weeks out from university starting, okay?
Yeah.
And I get this offer to potentially turn pro. And I'm like, oh my God, okay, I'm going to do this, but I'm not going to say anything to my mom for two
No.
weeks. But then
Yeah.
it'll be like, I can't go because
Yeah.
I've been university started, I don't have money, like I'm done. And bro, in that 2 weeks, I come home one day. I went out to practice. I came back late, and my mom's sitting in my living room. And my mom never sits in the living room. Like,
Right. Right.
that's when guests come, right? So
Yeah.
she's sitting there. I walked in. I was like, "What's up? Lights are on." And she goes, "Hey, there's a letter for you."
Oh.
And I'm like, "For me?" And
Yeah.
who writes a letter to me like at that age? So anyway, I look at it. It's already open. So I was like, "You opened my letter?" And it was a scholarship to study medicine.
Oh, wow. That's huge.
Yeah, in the UK, and my immediate reaction was like, no, this is
Hmm.
not happening. I am not going to university. I
Yeah.
am going to go play tennis.
Yeah.
But like, my mom was like, no, tennis is not a job. Like, if you're Indian, there's only three jobs, right? Like, you have to be an attorney, you have to be an engineer or a doctor. Like, that's it.
Right.
So
That's
she was
it.
like, no, you have to go to university. So we ended up having a big fight. And then the default came to my tennis coach,
Mm.
who became a father figure to me. Charlie he gave me so many life lessons and just brought me up in just with everything that I have now is a reflection of a lot of the upbringing I had on a tennis court. And we asked him, and he was like, "What are you talking about? You have to go study medicine.
Mm.
You crazy? You'll never make it as a tennis pro." And I'm like, "What do you mean?"
Wait a minute. Yeah.
And he's like, "Sure, you're 5'9", like you're never going to make it."
Yeah. Oh, no.
So then I was like, so then off I went. I went to, it was like literally 7 days.
Mm.
Within 7 days, packed my bags, went to England. Didn't know a single soul there.
No.
It was my first year that was really hard because it was just, my heart wasn't in it. I was very disappointed with my coach, because I wanted to play tennis. I didn't want to be in medical school. And then, dude, like England, if you're not used to it, it's like someone turned off the sunlight there. Like there's no
Yeah.
sun. Like you was dark most of the time, gray. The food was bland. Everyone was bigger than me. Even the girls were bigger than me. And then, like, I remember my first, here I was like pretty much a straight A student in Malaysia.
Hmm.
I go to England, and my first winter there, the exams, we had like a first mock exam,
Yeah.
and I was bottom third of my class,
Oh,
and I studied as hard as I possibly could.
yeah.
It was really, really difficult my first year. It was a tough adjustment. And then the other thing was because they paid for my tuition fee, they didn't give me any living expenses.
Oh,
And so the first year there, I had no money. I was living on one bag of chips a day. So I would wait till right at the end of the day when I see the chip shop about to close, run in there. I learned very soon, like if you go at that time, you can kind of say to them, hey, whatever's left, if you're going to throw it away, just give it to me,
right.
and whatever they're going to throw away. And then if they're in a good mood, they'll give it to me. Otherwise, they yell at me. And so I did that. And then, you know, it was just hard. I stayed on a friend's floor for a while there. And then I kind of caught myself and I said, my mindset was so negative, I was
Mm.
complaining about everything.
Yeah.
It's no good. Like, even listen to the story. Food's bland, everyone's smarter than me, blah, blah, blah. And I just got sick and tired of myself.
Right.
And so I kind of said, like, enough, just stop.
Yeah.
Just stop. And right around that time, I remember I came across this book, completely randomly, looking for some inspiration, came across this book in the bookstore called The Power of Positive Thinking by Dr. Norman Vincent Peale.
Yeah.
And, that was before personal development was a thing, like nobody knew.
Yeah.
I read that book, and, what I got out of that book was like, hey, listen, you make your own life.
Yeah.
And whatever you think and you act, so it shall be. Like, you don't and secondly is like control the things in your life that you can control. People will be smarter, people will be taller, you can't control the sunlight,
Right.
but you can control your attitude, you can control how hard you work.
Yeah.
And so from there, like, I remember I didn't buy the book, I couldn't afford it, so I sat and read it in the bookstore over 3 days. Like, I read the whole book cover to cover in 3 days.
Oh, yeah.
And then I kind of made a promise to myself, and I said, okay, I'm never going to say one more bad thing about England. And that literally changed everything. Very soon after, like, I was looking for a job and no one would give me a job. I got a job in Burger King, which meant some money and could pay rent and get some food.
Yeah.
Found out that the hospital had a library. So, I could study there, pretty much lived in the library, just go back to my place to sleep.
Yeah.
But didn't have to spend money on electric bill and stuff like that, and just like I said, like sometimes I would study late and the library would shut at 10 p.m. and I had still more work to do, so I'd go down and study in the cafeteria. And like the cafeteria staff kind of became friends with me, and they would like leave me leftover food. They just people were always, always, always on my side.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So anyway, that graduated medical school. During medical school, during anatomy, I dissected out the heart, and I was like, I don't know why this happened, but I was like, okay, I am going to be a cardiac surgeon. This is what I want to do. This is the coolest thing anybody could possibly do, right?
Yeah.
So, graduated medical school, started working, did my internship, and then started working, got a rotation in surgery, started, training to be a surgeon. And I got my boards after 2 years. And during that time, during my training, I did emergency room. And I remember my first day there, I was thinking, oh my God, it looks terrible. Shift work, all over the place. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to use this 6 months to go to work, come back and study for my board exams. Like, that's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to come, right? So anyway, I got my boards. And during that time, I realized I loved the ER. Like, my attitude was like, I was surprised how much I liked the chaos. I liked the fact that I did not know what was coming through the door. I liked the fact that I could deal with anything. 1 hour old, 100-year-old, male, female, transgender, pregnant, not pregnant, it didn't matter. Like, you could deal with any of the emergencies. And it kind of kind of fit with my character anyway, so that was good. And then I did my boards, passed my boards, and did surgery as a cardiac surgeon, and realized very quickly it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
It was just, the lifestyle wasn't for me. The surgery was very, there was only a few things that they did over and over again, and I was like, no, I need variety. Like, I couldn't do it. So I switched. I trained in ER after being board certified then. And during my ER shift one day, I I was working on one side, like where all the busy side, and then the other side was all like, ankle sprains, toothache, and all this kind of stuff. And that side was getting really busy. So the nurse comes over and says, "Hey, can you come help out on that side?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Man, I'm already working on here." So I said, "Listen, just line up 10 like easy cases that I can go through room by room and see it real quick." He's like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, no problem." So I go see the first few, medication refill, toothache, blah, blah. And then I see this one that was ankle sprain with x-ray was already done. So I look at the x-ray, everything looked okay. I looked at the chart, young guy, ankle sprain. So I go see him. Sure enough, ankle sprain, not a complicated ankle sprain. So I say, usual advice, eyes, elevate, blah, blah, blah. And. And as I was leaving, he goes, "Hey, doc, when can I play tennis again?" So I'm like, "You any good?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm the number 2 junior in the country, you know." And I was like, "Oh my God." And I realized I had no idea. And
Right.
you try something else. Listen, here's a trade secret, okay? In medicine, if you're not sure of the answer, you just say 4 to 6 weeks and you leave.
You're good to go. You're covered.
That's all. So you stay 4 to 6 weeks and you go. Because it's either going to get better or in 4 to 6 weeks you need to do something else.
Yeah, let's
So
take
one of the
note of
things
that.
I
Yeah.
thought, I kind of said, yeah, don't you have any physios? And he's like, it's winter break, like everyone's away and I got to compete in the tournament when I get back. And I was like, "Hey man, just I don't know, just give it 4 to 6 weeks and see what happens." But
Yeah.
I was walking back to the apartment that day and I realized I was like, man, I mean, that's not right. Like I should know how to manage an ankle sprain.
Yeah.
I'm training surgery, critical care, training in emergency medicine. So next day I go up, I see my boss and I like said, "Hey, how come I'm training all this and I don't know how to manage an ankle sprain? How come I can manage a heart attack, a stroke, a gunshot victim, but I can't deal with this?" And he's like, "Yeah, does it really matter? Nobody's going to die from an ankle sprain."
Right.
And I was like, "No, to that kid, that's like having a heart
No,
attack."
for
I
sure.
mean, when I was 17, if I sprained my ankle, couldn't play tennis, man, you might as well tell me I had a stroke.
Yeah. Take my
It was
leg off.
devastating to me, you
Yeah.
know? So he realized like he shouldn't have said that to me because I jumped out right down his throat. And he kind of said, "Well, listen, if you want to study this, go study sports medicine."
Mm.
And I never heard of sports medicine. So
Yeah.
I looked into it and I could study, I could do, like on my own time, I could study sports medicine with the Royal College of Surgeons of Edinburgh, which I already was part of because of the surgical boards.
Hmm.
So I did that. And during that time, I contracted a deadly disease
Mm.
called golf.
It's
Like
very deadly.
addicted to this thing, like beyond belief. So anyway, I started looking at back pain in golfers. And then I wrote to the tour, wanted to go and interview some golfers, and I met with like some doctors already there. That eventually I started going to the European tour, and then initially the players wouldn't talk to me.
Hmm.
They were so they didn't know who I was. But
Right.
eventually they kind of saw me more and more and more, and then I remember Sergio coming up to me one time and saying, "Hey, are you like a real doctor, or like you one of the PhD guys?"
All
And I was
right.
like, "No, I'm like a real doctor. Like I work in a hospital. I got a stethoscope and everything." And he was like, "Hey, can you look at my thumb?" And that's when it started. More and
Yeah.
more players talking to me. And then an interesting thing happened because I was under the impression as a sports physician, you'd be dealing with tendonitis, sprains, overuse injuries, that kind of stuff. And it wasn't. Most of the time, my athletes would say, "Doc, like, hey, I'm so tired, man.
Hmm.
You know, run their bloods and everything be normal. Like the bloods I knew how to run, like looking for anemia, looking for mono, blah, 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 normal."
Hmm.
And I'll tell them, "Hey, everything came back normal." And they'll be like, "Well, why am I still so tired then?" Or
Yeah.
they'll say to me, "Hey, like my allergies are so bad." So I'll say, "Yeah, you can buy this over the counter." They're like, "I'm taking all of that, and it's still bad."
Right.
Like, I realize, like, and then they say, like, "Hey, my jet lag is, when I fly to China, it takes me a week to get
Hmm.
back to sleep, and then I have to compete. Do you have anything?" And I realized a lot of those things I wasn't I wasn't equipped or trained to deal with,
Right.
and that predominantly the cases I was dealing with. And during my time in sports medicine training, I'd worked with Team GB, the cycling team.
Hmm.
And there was a very senior guy. He was like Yoda. He would show up and everybody will huddle around him and then he'll disappear again. So one time I was there, this guy comes up and like, so I run after him as he was leaving and I said, "Hey, if an athlete's tired and you do all the blood work and everything's normal, like what could that be?" And he said, you gotta look at the adrenals. Could be, like adrenal fatigue.
Yeah.
And I'd never heard of adrenal fatigue at this point. And this
Mm.
was before functional medicine was functional medicine. Okay.
Right, right.
So I come back. I call a buddy of mine who's an endocrinologist, and I said, "Hey, what's adrenal fatigue?" And he was like, "Dude, there's no such thing. How can your adrenals fatigue you? Like you will die. That's like saying you have heart fatigue. Like you
Right.
just die. Like you so I was like, oh yeah, I guess you're right.
Mm.
Then I remember, Malaysia growing up, like we were very used to like Chinese medicine,
Mm.
traditional Malay medicine, Indian medicine. And I was walking past this was in London, a Chinese medicine, a Chinese, like Chinese medicine, like, pharmacy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know why I did this. Like this was a life-changing moment to me. I decided to walk in there and ask the guy, I said, hey, do you have anything for like adrenals? And he was like, you mean like adrenal low chi? And I was like, yeah, like,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe. I don't know what chi is, but like, yeah, maybe.
Let's go with that. Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, we have a tonic. And so I was like, you know what? If they have something, those guys, they've been around forever. Like, there's got
Right.
to be something to this.
Yeah.
So I come back, go to the library, and bless my librarian Angela. So we do like this search. This is before internet. Like we had to do like search. I find a paper
Scroll.
from
The
1972.
microfiche. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So then I was like, okay, I find this paper, and I was like, okay, I found like a small, like the extract, and I was like, okay, this is what I need.
Hmm.
So we fill up this form, send it off. 3 weeks later, I get the original paper, which I still have in my house actually.
Nice.
And that's the first time I read about adrenal dysfunction and Hans Selye's work from the 1950s, looking at, the stress response, and like stuff started making sense to me, and I was like, how come I don't know this?
Right. Right.
Like I'm a smart guy. I worked really hard. Like I should have been exposed to this.
Yeah.
But that opened a whole can of worms, and then I started looking at other stuff, and then I realized that the body is not doesn't work in compartments. It doesn't
Right.
work in cardiovascular system and respiratory system and the immune system. The body works as a body,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and 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 then it really opened my mind. So then, and during this time, like as I was doing all this, I was progressing up in England, and when I passed my surgical boards, I didn't tell you this. I was so hooked on golf that my buddies were like, "We need to celebrate, dude! Like you passed the surgical boards first time asking. Nobody does that. Like
Yeah.
let's go to Florida and play golf."
Oh
So
my.
I always wanted to come to Florida
Yeah.
because that was the mecca for tennis growing up, right? So I was like, man, let's go. So we arrive here, and I remember I my first impression of Florida was like, oh my God, someone took Malaysia, shoved it in America, and called it Florida. It was exactly the same. Same
Yeah.
weather,
Felt like
same
home.
light, same rain, same plants, like same palm trees. I was like,
Same humidity. Yeah.
and humidity. And on the flight back, we had a great time. And on the flight back, I made this declaration. I told the guys, I was like, hey, I am going to go live there. And they were like, are you nuts? You have to do the whole American exam again. Like,
Yeah.
and I was like, no, dude, I got to do this. And so I looked into it and spoke to some people, and they were like, no, if you want to go practice ER in America, you have to score on the 90th percentile. And I was like, okay. So I remember when I came back and I was switching to ER, and I was working in the ICU at that point. And literally, Damon, for like 6 months, all I did was work and study.
Mm-hmm.
And I got the grades. Like I got what I needed. And I
Yeah.
was like, okay, here I go.
That's it.
I'm going to go to America. And for 7 years, I would apply every year.
Yeah.
About 50 applicants. I think in the end, like it was 352 applications over 7 years.
Oh my gosh.
Didn't get a job. And eventually I got a job because I was presenting a paper in Nice, and I met another guy from New York and met his boss, and his boss was like, hey, hit me up if you need some help. And so many people had said this to me, and he gave me his card. I didn't even look at his card until I got home, and I was like, oh my God, he's the chairman of the hospital.
Mm.
So I called him up, and I was like, I remember writing this email, and I was like, asking my girlfriend to read it at that time, and I was like, does this sound right? And she's like, just call him. And I was like, I just can't call the chairman of a hospital. Like, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
And she's like, well, how does it work? Just call him.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. So anyway, I called. I remember the secretary saying, hang on, and then I was like, oh my God. And then he comes on the phone. And I said, hey, Dr. Sama, I don't know if you remember me. And he's like, yeah, guy from England. You want to come?
Huh.
And I was like, yeah, I want to come, but like,
Yeah,
there's the issue of visa and stuff like that. He's like, yeah, we'll do what we need to do. He says, but you got to understand, you got to start from scratch.
yeah,
So I was like, okay, well, it's 3 years. So, 2006, I moved to New York, redid my residency in ER. But at this time, I was also still, very established in among the golfers in Europe, and a
yeah,
lot of them moved over here. Poulter moved here, Hendrik moved here, Rosie
yeah,
moved here. And 2009, I moved to Orlando, and those guys were based in Orlando.
yeah.
So I started working with them, and then functional medicine became a thing. So I started doing doing courses on integrative medicine, functional medicine. Got fully certified by IFM,
Hmm.
Institute of Functional Medicine, um, and then I combined it all. And then and when anti-doping came into golf, I started saying, that I can't use this pain medicine. Like, there's got to be a better way. I went to
Right.
study acupuncture in Hamilton University in Toronto, and then I put all these different pieces together to create a framework to help athletes.
Hmm. Yeah,
Then in 2013, Tiger Woods has back surgery for the first time, and the world of golf just came to a standstill.
yeah.
And as you know, like, just right place, right time. All the couple of the commentators in Golf Channel knew me, and when they were asking for a doctor, they put my name up. I
Yeah.
went my first stint there, and then I've been there ever since.
I love
You
it,
know,
man.
that
Well,
2016 became a citizen of the United States. So 2016, I said, okay, not working for the European side anymore.
hmm.
Worked first Ryder Cup. That's where I met you.
Yeah.
We won that in Hazeltine, and then I've been working. I did 2018 Ryder Cup in Paris, and since then now I work with a bunch of tennis players. I'm a medical officer with Oracle, so we look after a bunch of NBA teams. Dallas Mavericks, one of our teams.
Mm.
Yeah, just dude, that's my story.
Yeah.
That's
I
best
love
I can.
that. Yeah, there's so much to gosh, there's so much to unpack from that. I think when we originally met, you were just coming off of becoming a citizen and the excitement of becoming American, and I knew that was something that very early on. I think I read something that you wanted to become kind of like the Neil Armstrong, type
Yeah, dude.
person.
So
I mean, it's you're almost short of being able to be
I,
on the moon here a little bit. You got one more.
I have to tell, I have to tell your audience a story. So I was 2 years old, okay,
Mm,
and like I told you, I adored my dad. My dad would come back from work, and I would run up and like we played this game where I would unlace his shoes and do this kind of weird thing anyway. So we were doing that, and then I run off, and then one day he like shouted to me. He's like, "Hey, come here, come here, come here!" So he was watching TV, and I ran up to him, and he goes, "Watch this, watch." And they were showing the re-add the moon landing.
mm,
It's like, look at that, someone landed on the moon,
mm.
you know? I'm like, wow. And then JFK came, and my dad was like mesmerized, And I remember thinking, like, how does this man have this effect on my dad, you know? And so at night, like, we would habitually go for a walk at night. He'll take me for a walk at night. And so he would point up to the moon, and he'd be like, and I was like, yeah, someone went up there, huh? And he'd be like, yeah, who went up there? I'm like, I don't know. And he goes, the American Neil Armstrong.
Mm.
The American Neil Armstrong. Then next time we'll walk, he'll go, who went up there? And I'm like, the American Neil Armstrong. So this goes on for quite a few times, right?
Yeah.
So now it's in my head. So then my mom tells the story, like someone comes over to visit her, and just I was in the house, and she went to make a cup of coffee or something. So I was running around, and the lady goes to me, "Hey, what's your name? Blah blah blah." And she's like, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" And I said, "I'm going to be American when I grow up."
Mm.
And she's like, she's used to kids saying like, "I'm going to be a doctor" or
Right.
whatever, right? And she's like, "American," and I'm like, "Yeah." And she goes, "Why?" And I said, "Because if you are American, you can go to the moon."
Mm.
So
Yeah.
So when 2016 when I became the citizen, I'm like, I'm one step closer.
I'm
Now
going to the moon.
I'm
Yes.
going to the moon.
Hey,
Dude, when they allow citizens to go up there, when they allow civilians to go up there, I
hey,
will be on that
you're the
plane.
first in line. No doubt that you would actually make that happen. All right. So, yeah, we'll start the petition already to kind of get you in line for the citizens to go up to the moon, and I love that because it's really interesting. I mean, my whole family's in education as well. And when you have parents that are in that mindset, it helps obviously with the structure, but they also understand what it takes to have those little moments of inspiration that they can have those little droplets into their children, and the structure helps, but also them taking those little doses at a time into your upbringing and going think a little bit bigger, think a little bit bigger. And I think that's
Yeah,
the power of education, right? The
yeah,
power of education expands your capacity to go, wait a minute, I don't know what I don't know, and I want to know, and so I'm going to continually pursue that education. It's called, I run into that even with what I do is my biggest hiccup getting into the industry. Gosh, I would think it was like 20 years ago. Is the moment I started working with athletes, I was like, wait a minute, I don't know what I need to know. And so that continued that pursuit of education to go, I need to not only figure out how to use the hammer, but maybe there's something bigger than just using the hammer. I actually need to understand the entirety of being able to work with the athlete. And I love the fact that, you constantly had those moments in the career, moments in your path where it's like, wait a minute, there's something bigger, and like you said, the body works as a system, and you're not just simply treating, a tendonitis of the elbow. There's something larger to that's creating that type of inflammation, and so I love the fact that you didn't just stop at the education, you continually pursued that, and I love the platform that you're using now. Obviously, with the Golf Channel, everyone can see you on a day-to-day basis. I mean, that's super fun. I remember you and I had a time where,
yeah.
we spent some time on the Golf Channel as well, throwing some exercises around. And I love that you have this platform. Talk to me a little bit about, what that platform means to you now, kind of the onus and a little bit maybe of the weight that, you're in the trenches on the ER side, you're in the trenches working with athletes. Obviously that holds a lot of weight because, they're entrusting their lives to you. And even more so, you've kind of gone beyond that, and a lot of our conversations that we've had is, when you're going to do some, I may be phrasing it incorrectly, but more like mission work over in Puerto Rico or even in, Tanzania. Talk to me a little bit about, how are you using your platform, and what's the weight that it might have, and kind of what's that legacy piece that you're trying to, or
Yeah.
is that even in the mindset of like, how am I using my platform?
You know, a couple of things that you said, right? You, you go through phases like, when I was in my early 20s, surgeon, passing the boards, you kind of think like, yeah, I know this, I have arrived,
Mm-hmm.
blah, 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 And then if you really look at it, you kind of, when I did acupuncture training, someone taught me this. They said, you go through stages, right? So if you are a surgeon and you can take the appendix out every single time, you say, okay, you do make a cut here, you do this, you take this, you tie this, you cut this, you take this out, you stitch this, blah.
Yeah.
Very technical, right? He said, effectively, you're a technician,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Now, at some point, you'll get, you know what? What happens if I swap let me swap the sequence. Let me do one before the other, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you're an innovator. Like you've
Right.
taken from a technician to an innovator, right? But then at some point, if you keep pursuing it, you go, wait a minute, why did that even work? Like
Right.
that shouldn't have worked. And it worked. And I don't know why it worked.
Right.
Now you start questioning the very things that you thought you knew.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's when you get into like a philosopher stage. Okay. And then there's a stage higher, which is a sage, which basically you disappear into the ethers and just contemplate life.
Right.
So I think we go through these stages, and I certainly have a much more profound. I don't even know the word is respect. Like it's just a level of love and admiration for physiology and the human body, and respecting it enough to know that, listen, we are not even scratching the surface.
Right.
What we think we know in so many things is just what we know now.
Yeah.
Take this virus, for instance, like all these people professing to know all these things. We don't know anything about this virus.
Right. Yeah.
And someone is coming up and saying they know stuff, like, what do you know after 7 months? Nothing.
Right.
Nothing. You know?
Yep.
So I realize in medicine, even if you look at how knowledge is acquired and what we study, right? If you want to study the effects of vitamin D on immunity, right?
Hmm.
You are going to study the effects of vitamin D on immunity. Like there's so many other things that could be affecting immunity that you don't even know how to study because you haven't even thought about that. You don't even know
Right.
those things exist, you know?
Yeah.
So knowledge and how we study is very limited. And so it's kind of, to me, it's empowering. It's empowering to know, like, I'm only a very tiny part of this whole big grand
Right.
scheme. So that is kind of liberating. So even when I go on TV and when I do that, I've always Sanjay Gupta said something very important to me early on when I started doing TV, and I reached out to him from CNN, and I said, he was one of the doctors that I thought, like, wow, if I could be like him,
Right.
that
Yeah.
would be awesome.
Yeah.
'Cause he's very trusted. Like when he talks, other doctors listen, and that was my, like, how do you do that?
Right.
And he kind of gave me a couple of tips. He said, first of all, always maintain your integrity.
Hmm.
And then he said something even more important. He said, your message is more important than the messenger.
Mm.
So it doesn't matter if someone remembers your name or not.
Mm.
It's better off someone say, that Indian guy on TV, on the Golf Channel, whatever his name is, well, he said this. And, I remember this. Like, that's more important than them remembering me, or it doesn't matter.
Right.
So I always crafted my message along that. And then I realized as well, like working with all these athletes and, sharing, living vicariously through them, because I'm still a wannabe professional athlete. I'm just not good enough.
I can
Um,
join you. Yeah.
I realized that, you know, there's got to be more to life than just this,
Hmm.
right? Like, what's more than that? Okay, you help an athlete win a gold medal. You help an athlete get to world number one. Great, like truly, truly great.
Right.
But it's a bit like, I'm not just boasting, but like I remember buying a Porsche,
Hmm.
you know, and having it for 3, 4 years. And I remember selling the Porsche. I was just as relieved selling it as I was happy buying it.
Yeah.
Because I would park it in the hospital car park, and then, it'd be dinged and danged, and I was like, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. And so when I sold it and drove like a Toyota Camry, I was like, oh my God, I'm such a free man. Like, I don't care anymore. It didn't define me.
Right.
And I realized, like, all working with athletes, being on TV, these are all big titles and labels, but what does it all mean in the end? And
Right.
I realized, like, like Kamala Harris said when she ran for election, like, what's your 6 a.m. wake up message? Like, what do you wake up and think, oh my God? And to me, that's childhood obesity. Like,
Mm.
it really bothers me. Like, it doesn't matter if, we send spaceships to Mars and, or probes to Mars and bring them back. We send, humans to space
Right.
and bring them back. Doesn't matter if you can drive a self-driving car. But if you can't handle something as basic as growing childhood obesity on the planet,
Mm.
then there's something wrong. That's not progress to me.
Yeah.
How are we doing all of that fine when we're going to leave our entire generation overweight, type 2 diabetics, shortened lifespan? Like, that's not okay,
Right. Yeah.
you know? And so I kind of, again, decided that's what I'm going to focus the second half of my life on. And
Love it.
that point is getting very close. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so I
No.
hope that answers your question.
No, for sure it does. I mean, that's obviously, one of those things where I think all of us get a little bit, guilty of as we, get into a career or we get into a path and we feel like, those external things will bring validity to our pursuits of success, right? And, the Porsches or the house or, being able to go on elaborate vacations, those are good. But at the same time, it doesn't necessarily, you and I are wired, the exact same as we can have those, but it doesn't bring a sense of deeper purpose. And, especially when you're dealing with, children, I've got two boys and, 9 and 7 years old. And it's interesting. You start to take a look at, being a father or even taking an investment in children. I mean, obviously, they are the impact makers of the future, right? And so, it is our responsibility now to be able to, take what the knowledge that we have, be able to breathe that into the children, and then allow them a proper platform to then make bigger impacts that we could ever imagine. I mean, the ripple effect that we can have on children. And I love that, that's kind of that next generation of what you're doing from a career standpoint. And I think that to me speaks more volumes of, anything that we can accumulate is being able to just breathe into the kids of the future that can be impact makers. And one thing I definitely want to dive into, it was a beautiful story of the time that you spent in Tanzania. And you had the story of being with the chief, and talk to me a little bit about why were you there, but then also talk to me a little bit about some of the major takeaways of that time spent there. I mean, obviously it's a big attachment from our day-to-day being here in the States, right?
Yeah.
But give me some of those takeaways that you were like, I can definitely apply that today to make an impact on myself, but also to other people.
Yeah, no, listen. So I went to Tanzania to help film a documentary, right? There's a tribe there called the Hadza tribe, and they are the last of the true hunter-gatherers left on the planet. Okay, and I met this guy called Eric at Meads, who, I'd interviewed him at another event, and he liked the questions I asked, and he kind of said, like, listen, I'm going to go visit them. Do you want to come? I'm going to take a film crew. Like, you can ask me the same thing. So I was like, yeah, of course I'm going to go. So I went last year for the first time, and it was interesting. We spent 4 days there, and I came back, and it took about 3 months for me to really realize what had happened, And wait, dude, like something is so different about those people, And the more I thought about stuff, the more, confused I got, but more clarity I got. And so the opportunity came to go back again this year to actually film a documentary there, another documentary. And actually, Eric had, put this challenge to me and said, listen, let's go there. Let's live and hunt with them for 7 days.
Wow.
We sleep like them on the dirt. We only take water, nothing else, okay? And, we eat what we catch, and that's it.
Yeah.
So I was like, because you're in? I'm like, well, of course I'm in. Like, let's go. When am I going to do this,
Yeah.
I went there, and it was hard, dude. Like, my first thing was, like, I've been drinking coffee since I was 4 years old, and I was like, I can go without food. I just don't know if I can go 7 days without coffee like that.
Yeah.
And I'm not. My biggest worry is, like, I'm not nice to be around when I don't have coffee.
Yeah.
Not good when there's no food. Without coffee and food,
No.
So anyway, the first day, we slept there overnight, and then, like outdoors in the dirt, made a fire, slept under the stars. Next morning, 6 o'clock, we wake up and we're ready to go hunting. So the chief gathers troops, the dogs, and everything, and we start walking. And we walked like, I think 16 miles the first day.
Whoa.
And like up and down. It's really interesting, right? These guys, they're fast walkers, but they don't run very much. But when they do run, boom, they're gone.
Yeah.
Like fish, like boom, And so, like, we had to keep up because, we were in the thick African bush, and if I lost them, then I'm dead.
Yeah.
Like, there was no way I would live there. I would die. So we had to keep up with them. And so the first day, we, like, didn't catch anything.
Yeah.
And so managed to get some honey, some raw honey, like that they found a tree, ate some of that, had some wild fruit, and came back. And then on the way back, he shot like a bird, and they came back, and then the whole village ate that, and we were like, no, I'm not going to eat that,
Yeah.
So that was, the next day, we get up in the morning, we go in, and we had an interpreter there, but he kind of gestured that we're going to go hunt baboon.
Oh.
And so I remember telling Eric, I was like, baboon? I'm not going to eat a baboon? Like,
Yeah.
wait, that means I'm not going to eat another day? And so, like, this went on, and so same thing, next day, we did, like, no food again, it was really hard. And the third day we caught some stuff, and then it kind of got a bit easier. But like we were hiking 15 to 20 miles a day
Oh
in the
my
hot
gosh.
sun, you know, and it was I realized a few things. First of all, they live a very pure life, and I'm not saying their life is better than ours. You can't compare it.
No.
It's just that they're so rudimentary, and we are like driving cars and doing all this
Right.
other stuff, right? But the basic principles of what I have now coined free medicine was transparent there. Okay.
Mm.
First of all, they all moved. When I explained, like, I did an interview with the chief, and I explained to him like how we have gyms and stuff,
Right.
and he just looked at me like, this is so bizarre. Why would you need any of that?
Right.
There are all these rocks to climb, there's trees to climb, and branches to break, and why would you need to go somewhere? Like, just do it here,
Mm-hmm.
So they all moved, and they moved very, they could, like I said, they could run really fast, but for short distances, and then they would walk a
Mm.
lot,
Yeah.
barefooted, right? They ate very little, which again tells you how little food you actually needed.
Right.
I went 2.5 days with no food, doing 15 to 20 miles
Wow.
hikes on the day. So I must have averaged 30 miles of hiking in
Mm.
the hot sun with just water,
Wow.
which
Yeah.
again tells you how much food you actually need.
Right.
We overeat so much, right?
Yeah.
And the food that they ate was whatever they got hold of.
Mm.
So if it was raw honey, that's what they ate. If there was vegetables or fruits, that's what they ate. They found some tubers in season, they ate that.
Yeah.
Whatever they got, they ate. Okay. The next thing was they were out in the sun a lot, and when sun sets, they make a fire, and then they go to sleep.
Mm. Yeah.
It's like get up and go to bed with the sun. There wasn't artificial light to keep them up later than they needed to be.
Right. Yeah.
It's really interesting. After 2 3 days, the fire that they make, a nighttime fire, like making with wood and that kind of making a fireplace fire,
Mm-hmm.
is very soothing.
Yeah.
It's really, really, there's something very anti-inflammatory about just watching a flame.
Yeah.
And they all slept great, those
Mm.
guys, the girls, like they slept no problem. So sleep again was a big part of it. They were getting plenty of sunlight, and then the final part of the free medicine is they were part of a tribe, and everyone in the tribe had a purpose. There were guys who stayed up through the night because they were just night owls.
Yeah.
And there's a purpose for that. They watched over the
Watched
tribe
over the
that was
tribe.
asleep,
Yeah.
right? And then there were guys who were really good at like woodwork. There were guys who were good at like picking up plants. The women were really good at digging up tubers, and there was like a medicine lady. And when I saw firsthand, like when the guys would go off hunting, the ladies never came, the guys would go. The kids were with the ladies.
Mm.
And when you came back, they'd done a bunch of stuff. And so it really emphasized this old adage of it takes a village to bring up a child.
Mm. Yeah.
And we've come very far from that. We live, I think, more and more insular, like we don't know our neighbors, we don't trust anyone. And
Yeah.
the tribe is you felt such a sense of security because I have to look out for you
Yeah.
because I need you to look out for me,
Mm.
right? It's in the best interest for all of us.
Yeah.
And this point that I want to, when I asked the chief one day, I think it was the second last day, I was walking with him, and I just like adored that guy. And one day I asked him, I said, hey, what do you think is your primary role, like your most important role as a chief?
Mm.
Okay. And he didn't even like think about it. He just said to find the next chief.
Mm.
And I thought, wow, that's just not how we think. Like if you're a CEO, you're not looking for your replacement. You
Mm.
don't want to find your
Yeah.
look at if you're a president, you don't want to give it up. Like you want to keep on to it. You're the world number one. You want to keep the whole ethos is to like keep it going for as long as we can. And there he is, knowing that he needs to find the next replacement. Otherwise, the tribe will die.
Right.
The best hunter becomes the chief.
Mm.
So he took a young kid under his wing. Like he taught them. Like I could see him like teaching him how to shoot and how to make a bow, and he would always pull the kid aside and talk to him, and talk to a few other kids that he thought had potential. So he was already like that. It was very interesting to me that he said the role of a chief is to find the next chief,
Hmm.
because that means he put the tribe ahead of himself,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is why the tribe loved him and they trusted him so much,
Yeah.
you know. And then, no, I'm going to start, man. I hope I don't cry when I tell you the story. But this, on the last day, when I got there, because he recognized me from the year before,
Right.
and he kind of made me and all this kind of stuff. And I tried to shoot his bow, and I couldn't pull it back. Like I think it
Yeah.
was like maybe 100 pounds. I was struggling, but he would teach me, like he would tell me to do it. And then on the last day, we said our goodbyes and stuff, and he goes, he gives me the bow, and and I thought like he's asking me to shoot the bow again before I left.
Yeah.
So I laughed at him and I was like, I told the interpreter, he wants me to shoot the bow, and he goes, no, he wants to give you his bow.
Hmm.
And so I was like, you can't give me a bow, like what?
Yeah.
And he goes, no, he wants you to have the bow. And I was like, oh my god, like this is such a profound gift. And so I
Yeah.
was like, why does he want me to have the bow? And he said something like just unbelievable, dude. So, like I told you, the only thing we carried was water, right?
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't drink the stream water, like we just not, it could, and I didn't want to get sick there. But every time, he said, whenever we went hiking, I would give them my water. I
Hmm.
would share my water with them. And then he said, and there was one day we still had a long way to go, and you were already low on water, and you still gave the water to people.
Hmm.
He goes, that means you're a chief as well, and so you need a bow.
Hmm.
Dude, I even now like that, it just
Yeah. That's huge, man.
just
Yeah.
yeah, him to like notice that and say that, and just the way he thought about people,
Hmm.
that's my biggest take back from that.
Yeah.
Leadership comes in so many different forms.
Yeah.
Leadership in so many different shapes, sizes, colors,
Yeah.
but primarily it is it is leading for the sake of greater good.
Yeah. I mean,
You know, practice.
well, and that's the thing is, there's so many takeaways from that. I mean, obviously from a leadership standpoint, you know, everyone knew that he was in that role, but at the same time, I would imagine that he was the first one to start an initiative. Everyone kind of just started
Hmm.
to, fall into line with that, and it's really interesting because we think opposite here in the States a lot of times in the leadership roles. We go, I'm going to delegate, and which is fine, but at the same time, take ownership of the actual project that you're going to do. People need to see from a leadership standpoint someone that's actually leading, and there's a big difference between being able to pull or push your tribe, and it's one of those things
Yeah,
where if I'm going to lead from the front, I know that I'm going to be the guy that's going to be the first guy, first line of fire of going at this is the action that needs to be made, and then everyone just follows suit. And I think there's a beautiful rhythm with that tribal mentality is everyone has their role and everyone's in unison, and not only the chief had the mindset, but literally everyone had the mindset of the greater good of the tribe. How can
yeah,
I serve and not be served, if you will. And I think that's an
yeah,
amazing leadership position. And then, just simply the takeaways of going, okay, the simple fact is, and it's good that, we just need to step away from, and go into this like 10,000 feet looking down version of this is going, they moved, and that was medicine. They were outside in nature. That's medicine. They
yeah,
allowed the natural rhythm of sleeping patterns. That is medicine. Caloric intake. They ate what they could get their hands on, right? And so we, in our society of overconsumption across the board. I mean, not only caloric intake, but overconsumption of social media, TV. I mean, where you're up at night on the checking Instagram, whatever it may be. There's overconsumption of things that are completely unnecessary, and then we wonder wonder why we're so riddled with disease. And like you're saying in the second half of this career standpoint, is like, why are we dealing with childhood obesity? For the simple fact, we're grooming these kids to be over consumers of literally everything. Whereas, if we
It's a
just
mindset of scarcity, right? It's not a mindset of abundance.
right,
Those tribal people, if they shot two birds and that's all they need, they just shot two birds. They didn't shoot every bird they saw. It
right,
wasn't like,
yeah,
if they got the honey and they just didn't go looking for more honey. They just saw we had our honey and that's enough.
yeah,
They know it's out there. They just didn't need to get it.
right. I love that.
And so it's a total mindset of abundance, and also like I'm going to do a post on this at some point. Their feet were amazing. The way those guys used their feet was incredible, because
Yeah.
they're barefooted all the time, and they use their hands, their feet, their whole body, like incredible athletes.
Yeah. Well, and then,
You know?
even the simple fact of being barefoot, the grounding effect, and,
Yeah.
feeling, the energy that can be derived even from just the earth, and then the grounding technique. But, I mean, using your feet the way they're designed, in order to become a better moving, efficiently moving machine. And that's one of those things you need. I
And
mean,
that's the word. Yeah. Highly efficient.
I mean,
Very efficient.
I can't imagine. I mean, that's the thing. You look at just the way they move, and how all the systems play with one another. You understand. Wait a minute. They don't have the thick-soled shoe that ruins and kind of dumbs down the entire feedback mechanism that goes all the way up and through the body. And there's a lot of takeaways where if we can simplify a little bit, even from a training standpoint, even from a medicine standpoint, even from just general standpoint of there's a lot of chaos going on right now, especially with the COVID and people losing jobs, and there's a lot of chaos. And we go, okay, let me step back and live in a state of abundance and really kind of understand are my needs being met, and let me recalibrate what that actually means. And man, that's a powerful time that you spend. I want to definitely. I mean, we can talk for no whole hour and a half on this just alone. But for the sake of just kind of wrapping the time up, and how can people what is your next rollout of either a book or education, or what's that next thing that people can kind of get their hands on for you?
I've been, so like I said, my second half of my life is going to be focused on childhood obesity, but I have a wealth of knowledge and stuff that I've accumulated over the years that, has taken me 20 years, and it's taken me, $250,000 worth of, material and cost and time and everything.
Yeah.
That, one of my gifts is, I talk about the microwave analogy, right? Like, so my microwave over there has 15 buttons on there, David. I only use 3.
Right.
That's all I needed. I don't need all the other stuff, but I get given all of that, right?
Right.
And funnily enough, like the blood tests that I look at, I only look at a few markers.
Mm-hmm.
But I look at a few of this, and I look at a few of this, and I put them all together. Like, I think I know who said it, but there are only, 7 primary colors. Mm-hmm. There are only a few number of notes on the piano. And yet you can create masterpieces and symphonies just putting them together. And so to me, blood work is the same way. And, I mean blood work, I also mean laboratory work, so saliva, urine, all that kind of stuff. And over the years, I've put a framework together on how to assess every athlete. And so individualize every recommendation based on what they need, right? Not just fish oil for everybody.
Yeah.
Why? Just tell me why. Vitamin D for everybody. Like, why? Antioxidants for everybody. Oh, okay, which antioxidant? Why?
Yeah.
And I just became more and more personalized, more and more strategic. And the good news is a lot of these tests, which, 3 years ago, you couldn't go and order. Now you can go and order for yourself.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Is, to me, extremely empowering, but it's only empowering if you know what to do with the results.
Right.
If you need a method of looking at the results. And I'm now working on a course to teach people how to interpret blood work. And I want to, it's I've made it specifically for the healthy individual who's an athlete who's trying to get better. If you have chronic illnesses, if you're taking medication, this is not for you. But for those people I think you can take ownership. And if you're a trainer, if you're a physio, you're a chiro, you're a massage therapist, you work with athletes or corporate athletes, that this is a set of tools that even if it tells you, hey, I think you need to go get this test done,
Hmm.
you become aware of it, right?
Right.
And then the person who gets the test done, they don't come see me. Like, this is where I realize a lot of people will come to you as
Hmm.
their trainer, say, hey, Damon, I got this test done. Like,
Right.
what do you think? And you're
Yeah.
like, let me call Ara.
Yeah.
So then, so then I was thinking,
Yeah.
what I know, I can teach you how to do.
Right.
90% of what I know, I can teach you how to do
Yeah.
because it's simple.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but it's simple,
Right.
right?
No.
So that's the course. So I created this course called Functional Sports Medicine, the fundamentals of which are really, being a professional athlete or a corporate athlete is an endeavor that accumulates chronic inflammation in the body.
Mm.
Okay. And the more chronic inflammation you have, the less you can absorb training and absorb recovery.
Yeah.
And if you can't do that, you cannot build resilience to build a platform to compete on, right?
Yeah.
So where does inflammation come from? How does it affect the body? It comes from, again, to simplify it, comes from five areas: your detox pathways, your immune system, your energy forming system, right?
Hmm.
Your hormone, and then your brain and your pain pathways,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Those are the major inflammatory creators in the body. And when, like, if your hormones are creating inflammation and they are out of whack, well, they affect your detox.
Right.
And if your detox is out of whack, it affects your energy. And if your energy is out of whack, it affects your hormones. And so they are all linked. It's
Right.
just knowing how to look at it.
Right.
So what I'm doing is creating, this platform where you can look at an athlete, and it always starts with three questions: why this athlete, why this particular condition or injury, and why now?
Mm.
To me, if you're working with athletes and you can't answer these three questions, you don't understand the individual.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so that's where I am, and that's
That's
kind of the
huge. Yeah, no, I know a lot of people are going to anticipate that. And so, to be able to follow Dr. Ara, I mean, obviously you can catch him on Golf Channel. You can go to his website, draraoncall.com. You can also go to his Instagram, Dr. Ara on Call.
everything's Dr. Ara on call.
It's easy peasy. I love simplicity, the microwave thing. Well, Ara, I appreciate everything, man, and I have so much respect for you. But I genuinely just I love you, man, and you're one of those pools to draw from constantly, and I appreciate you taking the time. I'm honored that you took the time with us, and
Oh my
everyone
God.
everyone follow
Thank you so
Dr.
much
Ara.
for having me.
Absolutely, buddy. Absolutely. So, guys, happy Wednesday to everybody. Be blessed. Be awesome. Keep moving forward, and make sure to like, subscribe, comment on all of our avenues on Facebook, YouTube, and Dr. Ara. Have an awesome day, buddy. Love you, man.
Thank you, brother. Love you.